Michèle from the Fertility Network UK charity, as today starts the beginning of National Fertility Awareness Week. Good morning, Michèle.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you on this Monday morning?
I'm very well, thank you. Only slightly windswept.
Only slightly. And today starts the beginning of National Fertility Awareness Week. Just as an overview to start off with, why is that important?
Well, infertility is a bit of a Cinderella subject in the UK, and actually it affects 3.5 million people across the UK, which is quite a scary statistic. We're concerned to raise awareness of the problem because infertility is actually a disease. It's not some kind of choice that people make. And we want to get fair treatment for people across the UK. And at the moment, treatment is very unfairly distributed. And that, in fact, is the theme of our first day during Fertility Awareness Week, which is today. And that's the postcode lottery, essentially, that exists around fertility treatment.
That's quite staggering. 3.5 million people. To put that into perspective, that's the entire population of Wales. Are impacted by infertility, and as you say, it's not a choice. It's not something that people can just snap out of or change their mindset on anything. It's something that's happening to them, not because of them.
That's right. Yeah.
And you mentioned there about the postcode lottery. Just how varied are the different services depending on where you live? What can people expect to receive?
Well, in Wales, we're sort of sitting in the middle, really. Scotland have the best provision in that they allow 3 cycles of NHS-funded treatment where the woman is under 40 and the man is under 55, or for a single person, because also fertility treatment is available to single people. In Wales, we get 2 cycles fully funded, and in England, it's only 1, which is pretty scary. Northern Ireland also 1 cycle, I believe, although I might be slightly out of date on that. I think that's recently changed, so my apologies there. But it's not the same across the UK, and I think that's the problem. And NICE recommend that there should be 3 fully funded cycles, and it's not happening, and we're campaigning to try and make it fair for everybody.
No, that's brilliant. And part of your role, you're part of the education team at Fertility Network UK. You've actually been running a survey as well, haven't you?
Yes, it's the charity has commissioned Middlesex University to carry out a survey into the emotional impact of infertility, and there are some quite scary findings. The survey was published this morning, so if you're I'd like to apologise for reading on air, but I'm going to have to read it to you, the main findings. 4 out of 10 of the respondents to the survey reported suicidal feelings, which is just horrendous. And almost half of the people that took part in the survey experienced feelings of depression almost all of the time. And the vast majority felt sad, frustrated and worried all of the time. 2/3 of the patients had to pay for their own treatment, and the average cost of investigations and treatment was £13,750.
Gosh.
Around 1 in 10 couples spent more than £30,000, and a few spent over £100,000 to have a family. Wow. More than 1 in 10 of the people that responded either reduced their hours or left their job. Over 1/3 of the respondents felt their career was damaged as a result of having to have fertility treatment, and most felt that it would affect their career prospects. Only 1/4 of the people that replied said that there was a supportive workplace policy, while 1 in 5 weren't even sure if a policy existed.
Oh, that's shocking and heartbreaking, isn't it? The findings.
Yes. There's actually no legal provision for a workplace to do anything at all. So if a workplace is sympathetic, that's great, but there's no legal requirement for them to be so.
Gosh. And that's on top of the stigma and the shame that can go along with like not being able to bring a family into the world. On top of that, you then got people that aren't required to assist you anyway, going back to the workplace point there.
No.
And so what is it that Fertility Network UK are hoping to achieve by sharing these findings and to try and reduce that stigma and support more people?
Well, obviously, we're raising awareness, and we're trying to raise funds so that we can continue to support people going through a fertility journey, because that's what we exist to do, really. We campaign for fairness, we support couples, and we aim to educate and raise awareness particularly amongst young people, of what they can do to look after their fertility, because so many don't realise that there are things that they could be doing in their lifestyle that could impact upon their future fertility. And that's really where my job sits, in that I work with young people. And I'm just back from having driven all over Wales, going to freshers' fairs to talk to young people about how they can look after their fertility.
Yeah, and the trend up until fairly recently, I don't know if it's still the case, was that women in particular were waiting later into their lives to start a family, of course increasing that risk of not being able to have children in the first place. And if their lifestyle choices are damaging as well, then that's going to be doubly impactful.
Yeah, it's very important for us to get the message out that, of course, women have far more choice now in as to when they choose to have their family, but they do need to be aware that egg freezing, which is a route that many women, career women, might think that they can take, is not a guarantee. It's just a slight insurance policy, but it doesn't always result in a pregnancy. So it's important to be aware of your fertility and when your fertility starts to decline.
And so this week, then, you use as an opportunity to raise that awareness. We've already talked about the fairness of the different home nations. Then we've also mentioned the workplace as well. Are you looking there to be at least a minimum legal requirement? Is that your ambition for the future?
I think that's what we'd all like. Yes, I think we'd like it to be regarded in the same way as an illness would be, because after all, it is a disease. It's nothing more and nothing less than that.
Yeah. And on Wednesday, talk me through the theme for Wednesday.
Wednesday, I believe, she said, looking at her notes, is that Him Fertility Day?
It is, yes.
Him Fertility is where we get men. We want them to talk to each other. It's difficult enough, isn't it, being a man, and they're sort of notorious for not opening up about things, which is changing, and that's great. But you may have seen in the press, Rod Gilbert has been working with us now for some time, and he was the one who founded Him Fertility. And that's a safe space for men to get together and talk and support each other. And one of the most interesting things, and this is sort of about fertility fairness, but also about men, is that men quite often aren't tested to see if they are fertile until further along the efforts of a couple to have a child. And we like to see men tested at the beginning in the same way that a woman is, because half the time the problem lies with men, but there's a kind of tradition that it doesn't, and it's never the man's fault. But of course, half the time it is. Yeah,
and of course, it's an invasive procedure up until that point as well. And when you could have nipped that in the bud, so to speak, then it saves a lot of that process, a lot of that invasiveness as well.
Yes, yes.
And similarly with the infertility and having a safe space to talk, we've already talked about the education, but Friday is Talk Fertility. Is this to help those families that might think that they're very much alone in that process to actually reach out and actually to try and discuss with other people?
Yes, we believe that talking about all this makes it much better. Like, it makes most things better. And we encourage people to open up and to talk. So many people go through fertility treatment and they don't actually tell anyone that they're doing it, because it's easier for them, they feel, to not say anything because of the way that people might react and things that they might say. So, we do encourage people to talk.
And it's very, very important, actually, with any sort of subject. The more you talk about it, the more you become aware that actually others are probably or maybe going through the same thing. They can actually, but it is that talking.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's just has this stigma attached to it, which, we need to shake off, because it's not helping anybody.
Definitely. And if people do want more information, they want to find out more about Fertility Network UK, where's the best place for them to go to find more information?
Well, we're all over social media, as they say at the moment. Plus, we have a very comprehensive website which gives details of all our support groups, because obviously we offer groups. both in Wales and nationally. And I might add that during this fertility week, every evening this week, there's a free online webinar linked to the 5 themes of fertility week. So if anybody wants to find out about him fertility, for example, there's a webinar on Wednesday evening, which they can sign up for. I can give you all of this information and you can share it with your listeners.
Yes, please. Yeah, that would be fantastic if you could send that through. And is there anything else that you want to mention before drawing this to a close this morning?
No, I think that's it. I think before I started this job, I didn't really know anything about infertility. I had all my children and it was all very plain sailing. And since I've worked for the charity, I've just realized what a massive topic it is and how much there is to know. And I think it's important for all of us to educate ourselves about it so that we can be more sympathetic and empathetic with anybody that we come into contact with who could be going through a journey. And given that it's 1 in 6, there's going to be someone going through a fertility journey. So let's all help them.
Yeah.
Definitely that phrase of you never know what someone's going through, but be kind. It's so pertinent, particularly with such a stigmatized issue as well, where people might not want to talk about it. Oh, I'm a woman and I can't raise a family. That can have a really jarring impact on the whole family's mental health, which you pointed out as well. Michèle, thank you so much for joining us here this morning and raising awareness of infertility during this awareness week. And what's your website again that people can find you on?
fertilitynetworkuk.org.
There you go. Thank you so much. And if you're listening and you've been impacted by what Michèle's mentioned there, then please do check out their resources. And Michèle send them to us, but we'll put this on our socials and our website as well. Michèle, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to have Anastasia now with Welcome to My Truth. It's 9:47 here on Monday, the 31st of October on Pure West Radio.